Oh, you all came here to see Independence Hall. Well, this is Independence Hall. This is where America was born. This is the birthplace of our country because the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were both framed and signed here in this room. Now, for some of you who are more familiar with this history, I was going to take a little bit of a different approach this afternoon and try to, among others, highlight some individual men. And two of these men have the same last name of Morris. They aren't especially well known. Does anybody know the first name of one of these men named Morris? They were not related, but there was a man named Robert Morris and a man named Gouverneur Morris. So I may ask you that later. Robert Morris and Gouverneur Morris. Another man, his last name was Franklin. What's his first name? Benjamin, okay. Benjamin Franklin. Just about this time of the year, in 1776, in a cold February, a lot of the people here in the country, in America, had been reading a pamphlet called Common Sense. It was written by a man named Thomas Paine. And Thomas Paine became a pain or an annoyance to the King of Great Britain. He had some ideas, such as the fact that these colonies did not need to be ruled by a king 3,000 miles away, over an ocean, that really they could be independent. His pamphlet, he wrote this up in a small pamphlet, went viral. That is, it was spread throughout the country. People read it. They read it out loud. People listened to it and said, huzzah, that's a good idea. So the idea of declaring independence gained momentum. And here, when the Continental Congress met, they were going to take a vote on that question. Now, when they took a vote on that, they would have the delegates from each colony sit together. They would decide how they would cast one vote. So they had to agree with each other. Robert Morris was from Pennsylvania. He was not really in favor of independence. Benjamin Franklin was from Pennsylvania, representing Pennsylvania here. He was in favor of independence. But Benjamin Franklin's son was the royal governor of New Jersey. He's a loyalist. He's loyal to the king. The family is split. When they met to take their vote, Robert Morris abstained. He did not take a vote either way. But when they called the question of independence, actually Pennsylvania and the others voted for independence. Robert Morris abstained, but still Pennsylvania went for independence. They decided that was going to be our method to free ourselves from Great Britain, and they took that vote on July 2nd. July 2nd should be our national holiday. But what do you know is our national holiday? July 4th, right? The 4th of July is our holiday. But July 2nd is the day they took the vote for independence. What did they do? July 2nd, July 3rd, they had a draft of a Declaration of Independence. They went through that line by line. They sent it to the printers on July 4th. So that's the date on the document. Now, when they went through that document, they had to decide what to do. They had a good draft that they put together. Excuse me a second. And they sent it to the printers, but they had to wait a while for the draft to be written up by hand. So it took about a month. And on August 2nd, they had a handwritten version of the Declaration, and they started to sign it on August 2nd. John Hancock's signature is here. Next to Hancock is Robert Morris. So this man who abstained from voting for independence, who did not vote for independence, signed the document. We don't quite know why. We don't quite know what changed his mind. But maybe listening to this, when they read it out loud, to go over it, maybe listening to the preamble or the beginning, that maybe convinced him to vote for independence. This is where it says, all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That government should come from the consent of the governed. These ideas may have been enough to convince Robert Morris to vote for independence. Finally, to sign the document for independence. He put his name on that document. He pledged his life and his fortune and his sacred honor to the cause of independence. So now they're on board for independence. They've signed this document. They've committed treason against the king. They could be imprisoned and punished for that. Actually, it turns out that the American army is forced to leave New York City. They have to go across New Jersey. They have their back to the wall in Pennsylvania. It was a very low point in the revolution. It looked like things may not be good, but we kept struggling, kept fighting, and finally, in 1783, we signed a treaty with Great Britain, and our former colonial master recognized us as a free and independent nation.